Hello everybody, and welcome back to Insider's Guide. Today, we're continuing Sun Valley by discussing the bigger of the two mountains, Bald Mountain. If you haven't watched Part A, you'll want to watch that before this, as it'll provide some information crucial to understanding what I say in this episode. So with that, let's continue in Insider's Guide to Ski Resorts, Sun Valley. I'm alone, I'm alright. It's so good. First things first, since there are two lookout lifts, I will refer to the Lookout Express Quad here as Chair 5, and the Lookout Triple here as Chair 11. Second of all, recall that Bald Mountain is extremely steep. We'll of course go run by run, but do know that as a general rule of thumb, a green at Sun Valley is typically about the same difficulty as a blue everywhere else, a blue is as difficult as a black, and so on. Everything at Sun Valley is relative to everything else at Sun Valley and nowhere else. Now, let's get into what you all clicked on this video for. Bald Mountain has two base areas. Today, we're only going to discuss this one, River Run. Out of the base are the Roundhouse Gondola, Lift 2, and the River Run Quad, Chair 1. Generally, neither of these two get lines, but at the very beginning of the morning, there can be some build up to opening. As such, if you show up and they do both have lines, I would highly recommend riding River Run, as with its higher capacity, it moves its lines much faster than the gondola does. The one downside to this is that you will have to then get on Chair 5 to get anywhere, but a vast majority of people go gondola to Christmas, Chair 3, which goes to the exact same place as River Run to 5. If you do intend to go straight to Seattle Ridge, Chair 12, you will want to wait for the gondola, as you can then take Gun Tower Lane over to that area without having to take a second lift. You cannot access Mayday, Chair 14, from Gun Tower, so if you intend to ski the Bulls, you'll need to go up Christmas or Chair 5. Christmas and Chair 5 both hardly ever get lines, although Chair 5 does get ever so slightly backed up first thing in the morning, as it has a lower capacity than River Run, and everyone from River Run goes straight onto it. It clears out really quickly though. Off the top of the gondola, you have three main options. You can ski down in this area to get to Chair 5 or head back to the base area. You can head Looker's Left to the Cold Springs Pod or across the aforementioned Gun Tower Lane, or you can get on Christmas to head to the summit. We'll start with Roundhouse's terrain pod. Right off the top, you can head down Canyon or Roundhouse Slope. Upper Canyon is extremely steep and narrow for a blue, but the lower part isn't as bad. As such, if you don't want to do the upper, you can head down Roundhouse Slope and cut across on Mid-River Lane. This section of Mid-River over to Canyon isn't too bad, but it flattens out quite a bit once you get past Canyon. Olympic Lane is a super tranquil road through the trees, although it is quite long. Olympic Ridge and Lower Olympic are about the same difficulty, and this lowermost part of Olympic Lane is extremely flat, so if you're feeling it, I would highly recommend taking Lower Olympic instead of Lower Olympic Lane. Upper Olympic and Exhibition are two nice wide mogul blacks, although Olympic does have one pitch, right here, that gets pretty crusty because the sun hits it more than the rest of the run. Sleeping Bear is arguably the hardest of the three blacks, as it is very narrow and has a lot of side hill. Lower River Run is the funnel on this side of the mountain. Because everything flows into it, it gets very busy. It also gets very slushy towards the end of the day due to its low altitude. However, it is one of the easiest greens at Baldy and is a great first step after progressing from Dollar. The best time to hit it is between 1 and 2 in the afternoon, before it gets too busy and slushy when the sun is out and everything is warm. Broadway, Chair 4, is the other lift coming up to the same summit as Roundhouse. It is extremely difficult to access both Canyon and Gun Tower Lane from the Broadway chair, as each requires quite the trek around the Roundhouse restaurant and Christmas lift, respectively. I would highly recommend heading right off the top of Broadway down Roundhouse Slope, or left to go to Christmas, but I would not advise planning to go from Broadway to Canyon or Gun Tower unless you are willing to push and skate around the summit quite a bit. Most of the lift summits at Sun Valley are placed in poor locations and require a bit of pushing and skating to get to the runs. Aside from the whole summit though, Broadway is the worst offender. The Cold Springs Pod is one of the emptiest in the resort. Cold Springs Cutoff is a fun, shorter blue groomer. It's one of my favorites in the resort as it's not super steep and it's quieter than other areas. Its conditions do deteriorate quickly because it doesn't have snowmaking, so hit it in the morning when it has fresh corduroy. You can actually get to Cold Springs Cutoff from the intersection of Gun Tower and Inhibition, as there is a road right at the top that goes back in this direction. As such, if you are coming down anything in the Christmas pod, instead of taking Christmas Lane all the way around to Gun Tower, you can take Middle Inhibition straight down the face and cut across on the hidden road to Cold Springs Cutoff. Lower Inhibition, Lower Christmas Bowl, and Three Bears don't typically have the best snow, and when they do get snow, they'll often be closed for a while due to the extreme avalanche danger of Cold Springs Canyon. Broadway is a very nice run, as it has magnificent views up both sides of the canyon. Inhibition offers some good tree skiing on both sides. This little symbol indicates the Deer Hollow Kids Adventure Trail, which is a short little tree trail with banked turns. Cold Springs Canyon is called a canyon for a reason. Its sides are very steep and sometimes have no snow at all. However, in really good snow years, every now and then, Ski Patrol will open up this ridge even though it is technically shown as out of bounds on the trail map. A 10-minute boot pack offers access to super steep, incredible, experts-only skiing down the side of the canyon that very few people know about. When open, you can access this through a pair of gates on the skier's far right side of Roundhouse Slope. If it's open when you're there, I would highly recommend doing it. It'll bring you back down to Broadway, which never has any lines. Seattle Ridge is the most popular terrain in all of Baldy. As such, Chair 12 gets the longest lines on the mountain at a whopping 10 minutes during the busiest times. The three main greens, Gretchen's, Muffy's, and Kristen's, are all groomed. Because Seattle Ridge is so popular, they do get crowded from time to time. In my experience, Muffy's was generally the least busy. All three are super steep and would be considered blues at most other resorts, or even blue blacks or double blues at some resorts. They are not where you should learn to ski. If you are a true beginner skier, you're going to want to stick to Dollar Mountain. In between Gretchen's and Muffy's under the lift here is a good little ungroomed stretch. Byron's Park is also often left ungroomed. These are some great places to learn to ski ungroomed stuff. Hourglass is a mogul blue that is also great for learning. There are also a pair of kids' adventure trails off of Kristen Silver, which, similarly to the one in Cold Springs, offer banked turns through the trees. These trails are relatively steep and can be hard to control your speed on from time to time, so be careful skiing the adventure trails. Lay Lane is a road that brings you around to Broadway. Broadway, which is much less steep than the rest of Seattle Ridge, is, in my opinion, the only true green at Seattle Ridge. Both Upper and Lower Broadway have some fun little side hits on the skier's right. The Seattle Ridge chairlift closes before the rest of the resort, but don't worry, you can still access the Seattle Ridge terrain by using the Mayday lift. There is a road that cuts across from Broadway face and will let you ski the lower 2/3 of the whole Seattle Ridge pod. You can lap the Seattle Ridge terrain via the Mayday lift and Bowl Lane after the Seattle Ridge lift closes. Accessed from the Seattle Ridge chairlift is the Sunrise expansion. This experts-only terrain was opened in 2020 with the new Broadway chairlift, and features extremely steep tree skiing. It is not as difficult of expert terrain as you'll find at other resorts, as the trees are very well thinned. This terrain also has very variable conditions and sometimes will only open for a few weeks total throughout a whole season. Fire Trail is a more traditional double black mogul run. If you're going to do this tree skiing, however, I would highly recommend traversing all the way to the Glades, down here, to get away from everyone else. Overall, this isn't even close to my favorite expert terrain, but it is indeed the hardest terrain in Sun Valley. That about wraps it up for the first parts of Bald Mountain. Go watch parts C and D right after this, where we finish up Sun Valley by discussing the other areas of Bald Mountain. As always, please leave any questions down below. Thank you all so much for watching. All my love, I'm out.